Hey there everyone, today I want to talk to you about maintaining your mental health if you are a content creator. So I feel this video is going to be particularly important for people who make content around mental health, because ultimately you're going to be looking after your mental health whilst trying to help other people look after theirs. But whatever industry you're in, if you're creating content to try and help other people, you need to look after you too. This video is going to be based on things that I've helped other people with, but also on things that I've had to learn myself through 7 years of making content in the mental health space. It is a hard thing to do because you have to have this almost energy 100% of the time, and that's just not possible. And people will struggle between the idea of feeling like they've got to act like they've got everything together all the time versus being raw and real and talking about their own struggles. And it's this really fine juggling act, because if you go down the I'm 100% sorted all the time route and you're not, which let's face it, none of us are, you're going to kind of feel like a fraud, and you're going to feel like that imposter syndrome creeping in, and you're going to feel like people are going to find me out sooner or later. You're going to hide those parts of your life which you wouldn't want other people to do. And on the other side of things, when we go into the just opening up, raw, honest constantly, you run the risk of what you fear, people not relating to your content and not giving them actually any value to take away from the content. Now, there is value in rawness and there is value in your story, whether or not you give a person a solution or not. And it is really powerful sometimes for people to see other people are struggling too. It can make people feel like they're not alone. But we want to find that sweet spot, and that can be really, really hard to do. And also that sweet spot, it might be a sweet bracket rather than a little spot. It might be kind of a range that you move between depending on where you are on your journey at that exact moment in time. Another thing that's important around that journey is the fact that your momentum is going to be in different places at different times. You're going to feel like you're on top of things and sometimes and struggling with things at other times, and that can come through in your videos, and that's okay. It is all right for that to happen. You're going to feel like there's times that you don't want to create content, and we have all of these rules out there that say, oh, you have to create content at least X amount of times, otherwise you will fail, your stream will fail, your channel will fail, your YouTube channel will disappear. And that level of pressure can lead us to basically put out content just for the sake of putting out content, not making sure it's good, not actually it being something that we want. Another thing is that we can look at this idea that when a certain piece of content pops, we then start chasing that particular type of content because we think, oh, well, this is what people wanted, and therefore I will make more of this. This was completely and utterly true when I first opened up about my mental health 6 years ago. I did just a candid video in the car. I just decided to pull over on a drive to a seminar and talk about my mental health. It's still available on YouTube. I'm not linking directly to it though. If you want to see it, you're going to have to go and search for it. It's nothing compared to what I do now, but it was raw, it was honest, it was just at the moment, just a decision. And that video did extremely well. And at the time I thought, right, well, I'd best do a follow-up to this. And in the follow-up, I went even more raw and even more honest and delved into like even more of what was going on there. It didn't do as well. Third video didn't do as well. And I kind of moved away from the mental health videos for a little while because I thought, you know what, maybe I hit people with too much of that at that particular time. But that was in the early days of being a content creator and not really thinking about, right, well, what do I want to put out? And ultimately, yes, you need to have an understanding of what people want to see, but you also need to have an understanding of what you want to put out. And you can only guess on what other people want to see. The statistics and the analytics will give you information on those things, but those things can drive you a bit mad because they point you in a certain direction. And I really wonder whether the analytics kind of push us towards kind of acting in ways that aren't particularly healthy for us. If a certain video pops, it makes you think, I want to do more of that kind of thing. It makes you interpret the fact that people want exactly that, and they might not. It might just have been that got shared by the right person at the right time. There's many of my videos that go well that I don't expect to go well, and there's tons of them that I do expect to go well that just completely and utterly flop. And that can be another huge part of it, our expectations versus our reality in this sort of department. In terms of when you are creating content, you essentially have to try and make it the best it can possibly be, put it out, and then ultimately leave it to the whims of the universe what happens after that. Yeah, of course, spread it around, of course, tell people about it, but how people respond to you telling about it, how people respond to the posts you put up, there is an element of how the other person's feeling on that day, what they're doing, where they are, whether they're traveling, whether they've got their headphones with them, all these sorts of things. So look actually plays a huge part in it, which people don't like to talk about because, you know, you make your own look. And yes, you're more likely to get a video watched that is up than one that isn't, and you're more likely to get videos watched if you have more of them up there. But they're not guaranteed on any of these things. And when we put something up and our expectations, it's one thing to be excited. And this is the whole thing, is that one huge piece of advice I would give is be excited about your content, but be excited about your content because you love it, because you like it. And let the fact that you like it be enough. Because yes, of course, we're putting these things up there because we want people to see them. We want to help people with them. We want views on them because, you know, why else would we put them up? If we didn't want views on them, we'd just sit and watch them ourselves at home and be happy about it. But when we actually focus so much on the views and the likes and the comments and the shares and all of those things, we forget the question of whether we like this content ourselves. Did we enjoy the process of creating it? That's one of the things I'm glad of at the minute. I'm in a space of enjoying creating these videos. Some of them are doing better than I expected, others I would love them to do better, and you know, I'm still in that space. What has changed is that I'm enjoying making them, and I actually, you know, I like sitting down in front of the camera, I like sitting down in front of the microphone, making it. I like the kind of process of putting a thumbnail together or the process of editing the videos myself. I like picking the music for them. I like that process, and I hope that continues, because by liking and enjoying that process, I'm a little bit less vulnerable about what happens once the video is out in the world. And we need to think about this, because one of the things that'll stop you from being consistent with things is losing that motivation, is losing that momentum. And that can be dictated more so by our attachment to what happens with the video rather than specifically what happens to the video. We also have a tendency to deal with these things relatively. So you might now get sort of 300 views on a video, and then you'll release a video that only gets 30. Now, historically, 30 might have been absolutely amazing for you. You probably got into this kind of content creation thing with saying the following phrase: if I can help just one person, then it's worth it. A lot of us have said that phrase, and we believe it at first, and we help one person, and that one person, we give it all this value in the world, the fact that we're helping this one person. But then something happens and we help 10 people with one video, and now that becomes the benchmark. So the next time round, when we help 5 people with a video, it's just not 10, is it? And I'm kind of at this particular stage in my kind of development, almost in a weird way glad that I've not got to that level of helping hundreds and thousands of people yet, because would that become the new expectation? And ultimately, the problem's not the expectation or the reality. The problem is the difference between the expectation and reality. If your expectation was 10 views and you got 100 views, amazing. You're going to be happy. You're going to walk away from that video completely and utterly ecstatic. If your expectation is 100 and you get 10, you're going to walk away from that video miserable. And ultimately, when they say about you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, that's going to push you down the route of thinking, why do I even bother doing this? And you have to remember back to that, well, if it helps just one person, because I can guarantee that your stuff is still helping one person, at least one person. But the focus, even though maybe not consciously, has moved from if I can just help one person to maybe if I can just help one more person than last time. And we need to alter that. We need to put it out for the sake of putting it out. Another thing that comes up in the mental health space particularly is making your content better. And this is something that I see arguments on all the time, is like whether or not we should make our content better, because surely it's good enough as it is. Now, within mental health, I love the phrase "you are enough." It's actually one of my favorite phrases. I made an entire video around it, which was a poem that I wrote for my children. I will link to that one at the end of this. It's still my favorite thing I've ever created. And it's not because it's had 4.8 thousand views, because I paid for those views. That was an advert, so that's the reason it's had that. That video has been spectacularly successful compared to some of my others because I put an advert on it. It hasn't grown just by its own merit, even though I 100% believe that of any of my content, that one should. But the phrase itself came from the fact that pretty much most people in mental health want to feel like they are good enough. Most people in life want to feel like they're good enough. And we want to feel like we're good enough exactly how we are. And there's actually this constant battle between, should I make my stuff better? Should I do anything better? Is it good enough as it is? And the way I look at this is, you are good enough exactly as you are in this moment right now. You are as prepared for this moment as you can possibly be. That's it. You are ready. If you choose to do nothing more today, that is great. And you are good enough and you are worthy and you are valuable. But if you want to be better at things, that's not a contradictory goal. You can become better. You can't be better than you are right now, but you can be better at certain things. Doesn't dictate your value as a human. My value as a human isn't dictated by the value of this content. The value of this content is dictated by the value of this content. So it is completely and utterly possible for me to be enough, yet still want my content, my message, the delivery, the way I'm saying things, and the connection it has a possibility to make with you to be better. And that's okay. And if someone else is doing something better than you, it is not shame. I saw a mental health advocate complaining about the fact that a video saying how to look better on Zoom calls and saying we don't need that level of judgment. And it's like, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, what's wrong with someone saying, here's how to look better on Zoom calls? Like, what's wrong with wanting to look better on Zoom calls? It's like if Usain Bolt did a video that says, here's how to be better at running, would that be classed as shaming someone who's not as good at running? It's not. There's no shame in wanting to be better. There's no shame in looking at other people's stuff and saying and taking inspiration from it, rather than looking at it and saying, I'll never be like that, or that's so much better than I could ever be. Look at it and say, what can I take from that I can implement into mine, and do it in a sort of stepwise way. You know, you don't have to go all in at the same time and do absolutely everything. Buy the expensive camera, buy the expensive microphone, learn how to sound edit, learn how to do this. You don't have to do all of that on every single, before you're ready to put out one video. Yes, there is always room for improvement, and if we take that as an enjoyable journey, as in the spirit of learning and actually taking pride in our work, this comes back to what I said before about enjoying the process. One thing that I did for years and years and years is I took, where is it? It's over here. I basically took the videos on here and I was like, even just holding it out, like shaky arm. And I was like, you know what? My message is powerful. My message is important. That's good enough. And people should just listen to that. And people did. But at the same time, me not having the camera set up, the light set up, and the microphone set off made some people not. And it's like, okay, I want to help more people. Going back to that old chestnut, I want to help more people. Therefore, well, maybe I could make this a little bit better. And there's still times that I will go to the raw kind of on the camera, on the phone camera footage, and I'll do that because there is absolutely power in that as well. But we can't let that be the reason why we don't actually ever try and take pride in our craft. We are creatives, and ultimately you are going to be happier by saying, I put out a piece of work that I'm proud of, rather than the result it gets. And it all comes down to self-esteem in your work, self-esteem in yourself. Self-esteem's not going to come from the 10 people that comment on your video telling you you've done a good job. That's just esteem. That's a nice little drug that'll give you this little hit, and then you'll be craving more of it. Self-esteem comes from that whole inner part of saying, I'm proud of what I've done. I'm happy with what I'm putting out right now. And the more you can get to that point, the more that you're going to connect with the right type of person, because the person that connects with your work is going to be someone that truly feels you and where you're coming from. One final note on this is don't let the numbers dictate your worth. I've done a whole episode on my podcast, which I'll link to below, on how social media addiction works a hell of a lot like body dysmorphia. I spent so much time with an eating disorder staring at the number on the scales and letting that dictate my worth. And then I came into the creative industry and I stared at the numbers on screens and let that dictate my worth. And you know what? If I'm 100% honest, when I'm feeling low, I still do that. I still go and stare at those analytics and actually stare at them more when the more low I'm feeling. And it's almost kind of entwined, and it's something that I'm trying to get out of right now. And yeah, by removing myself from that situation, by limiting how much I look at those analytics when I'm feeling low, because ultimately, if the analytics were helping me feel low in the first place, looking at them again is not going to make me feel better, is it? It's not like I'm sat there kind of crossing my fingers and hoping for a miracle that since I last looked, everything's going to have changed. And yeah, that just sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud, but it is the case that we do that. When we are creatives, we think that our impact and therefore the reach and all of those numbers on social media dictate our worth. And they don't. Your worth is intrinsic. Your worth is in you. Your worth is in you and what you can do as a person. It's not in how well it is received. And it is just the fact that you are worth enough just exactly as you are. And for me, it comes back to that balancing act, that if I spend too much time striving for being better, then it's good and it gets me places, but if I stay there for too long, it makes me miserable. But at the same time, if I spend too much time saying, yeah, everything's great, I'm happy just the way I am, then I get complacent and I don't make content and I don't really have mental health stuff to talk about. For me, I need to spend more time over here, if I'm perfectly honest, and a little bit less over there, but it all works like a seesaw. And in fact, let's forget the subscriber button at the end of this video. If you want to subscribe to this channel, you can hit subscribe below, but at the end of this video, when I do all the links, instead of actually linking out to a subscribe button, I'm going to link out to two different videos. I'm going to link out to the You Are Enough video, which I said earlier, and I'm going to link out to a video about balance. It's an old one of mine, but it's a little cartoon animation that talks about balance and how balance isn't really like a set of scales that just keeps things constantly in flow. As always, if you have enjoyed this content, please do hit that subscribe button, maybe even hit the notification bell so you can get told when these videos go out. And if you want to join me live for a conversation around mental health, I stream every Sunday between 7 now and 10 p.m. With the exception of this Sunday, if you're watching this the week of the 14th of July, I will be not on stream this Sunday, but every Sunday other than that, I stream between 7 and 10 p.m. on twitch.tv/Mindset by Dave. I would love to see you down there and I would love to have a conversation with you. And let's just get together, make a community and talk about mental health.